Hi folks, tonight I'm taking up a task that I've been procrastinating on, which is refitting the roller jewel on my Illinois Bunn Special. From left to right, what I have on my desk is a jar of isopropyl alcohol that will dissolve the old shellac on the jewel and in the roller, a little paintbrush to aid me in that, as well as a sharpened piece of pegwood. I've got a little baggie of new shellac, more shellac than I will need in my entire life, although this stuff goes bad, so I'll only be able to use a tiny fraction, I think. I've got a tool for fitting roller jewels. So what this thing does is it holds roller and it's clamped there, and the tool is heated to melt shellac so you can fit the jewel. I have a spirit lamp with some, I use isopropyl alcohol. I've got a loop. I've got steel tweezers. I find steel is better for handling small objects because the tweezers are firmer. They don't flex as much, and so you have better control. And on some Rodico, under the microscope here, I've got the pallet fork, I've got the jewel, and I've got the impulse roller. And you'll see why in a minute why I've had to pull out the pallet fork. So what you're seeing now is a close-up view of the impulse roller. This is a two-part double roller, so this is just the upper part, the impulse roller. And you can see the hole where the roller jewel once fit. You can see that whoever installed this last did kind of a poor job and didn't clean up after themselves. So there's some shellac around the outside of the hole on the side of the roller. So that's something that ideally we'd like to avoid. And we've got the jewel that has fallen out. You can see right next to it this little blue sapphire jewel. It's got some crusty old shellac on there that we're going to have to remove. But there's an immediate problem, and now I wish that I had looked at this earlier and ordered the jewel when I, or at least looked for a jewel when I had ordered my other parts. Namely that this jewel is D-shaped, as are most roller jewels, even on American pocket watches in my experience, and the hole is a circle. So actually, this looks to be the wrong roller jewel. The roller jewel looks to already have been replaced, if that wasn't already evident from the kind of crappy shellac job. And this jewel is not really appropriate for this hole. So this is a bit of a problem, because of course we need to bind the jewel into the hole using shellac, and if the hole is much too big for the jewel, then it's going to be quite hard to fit the jewel such that it will be securely in the hole. So I'm a little worried about this. The problem is that these circular jewels, kind of weird shapes of roller jewels, are at this point very difficult to find. So I did some looking online in the last few nights, and I think I'm going to have to work with this jewel, provided that it is of a correct size for the pallet fork. And I'll show you in a minute how we can determine that. Okay, so you're now getting an up-close and personal view of the pallet fork. So you can see the notch, the notch on top. You can see the horns, right? And below you can see the guard pin, which interacts with the safety roller. And on the right you can see the jewel. So what I need to do now is, since I know this is the wrong jewel, and I want to try to make this jewel work because I can't find a circular roller jewel, I want to make sure that at the very least this jewel is the correct width for the pallet fork. Now a roller jewel should fit in the pallet fork with some side shake, but not too much. If there is too much side shake, then at least some part of the power of the escapement is going to be wasted, right? So the fork will be moving and not hitting the impulse jewel, and this is a waste of the power coming through the train. On the other hand, if the jewel is too tight, then it may bind in the notch or not be able to enter the notch at all. Recall that the jewel, as the balance is swinging around, has to pass by the horns without hitting the horns and enter the notch. So it requires a small amount of side shake. This is something that I've heard DeCarla refer to it as 2/100ths of a millimeter. Henry Freed doesn't give such a precise number for how much side shake there should be. My interpretation of his book is there should be about 5% of the width of the jewel in side shake when the jewel is placed in the notch. So I'm just trying to gauge this with the jewel. You can also do this with roller jewel finger gauges. I can show those at some other point, but since I have the jewel out, it's already out. I may as well check. I may as well see how this fits in the roller. And for that purpose, hopefully without pinging it, I'm just going to grab the jewel, try to get it straight across, and see how it fits in the roller. Yes, I've got it more or less straight across there. Sorry, pardon me. See how it fits in the fork. So there we go. We just want to check the width of the jewel relative to the notch. There we go. So there we're getting quite a good view. So the jewel appears to have some side shake. Whoopsie daisy. Try that again. I mounted the camera in quite an awkward position for this, so let's see if I can do it. Yep, a little bit of side shake. Good. So what that says to me, there we go. I can set it down. Finally. This is difficult the way I set up the phone, but so you can see there's a tiny bit of side shake in the notch with the jewel. So this looks like enough side shake to me and not too much. So yeah, approximately 5% of the width of the jewel in excess space in the notch. So I'm going to call this acceptable. So now we can move on to what's going to be the main challenge here, which is taking this kind of incorrect jewel and hopefully fitting it securely back in the roller. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do now. So before I get to any shellacking, what I got to do is clean both the jewel and the roller in alcohol. And what this will do is it will dissolve the old shellac as well as pre-clean these components. So, you know, these don't have to go through a cleaning machine beforehand, but you should get off all the dirt, all the crap, as well as any old shellac. So I'm going to let these soak shellac for a couple minutes. Then I'm going to brush them and maybe dip the end of the sharpened pegwood in shellac, in alcohol. Bring out the jewel and the roller and just chip off any old shellac. So I'm not going to keep you guys around for this quite boring task, but that's what I'm doing now. Okay, so I've now got my impulse jewel and impulse roller completely clear of old shellac. And the next task is for me to insert the roller into this roller adjustment tool. So this tool clamps the roller this way and is spring-loaded, so when I let go of the bottom button, it will hold it in place. And then what we can do is we can use this arm to insert in a flame and conduct heat to the roller, which will melt shellac and allow us to secure the jewel in place. So here's a close-up view of the roller being held in the tool. You can see there's two little grooves in which the roller sits. Now, if the balance was on, it would be sitting behind the roller, as you see it now. But there's no staff, there's no balance, so I've just got the roller here. Okay, before I actually go inserting my jewel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt into the hole a little bit of shellac, and then when I fit in the jewel, it will have something to grab onto. You see people go about this different ways. If you have a tight-fitting jewel, you might be able to fit the jewel in the hole and then melt the shellac around it. Instead, because I've got a jewel that's D-shaped and a hole that's circular, it's not going to be gripped by the whole circumference of the hole, so I think it's important to get some shellac in there first. So I've taken a very small amount of shellac, and then I've made it even smaller. I've broken it up with the flat back of my tweezers here. And I want a little chunk of shellac that's really only about the same circumference as the hole. If you choose too much, you'll be surprised how much this stuff spreads, and then you're going to be left with the job of chipping off the excess. So there I've actually managed, despite myself, to insert a little piece of shellac into the hole. So what I'm going to do now is get the lamp fired up and melt that shellac so that it is kind of permanently stuck in that hole there, and when I insert my jewel, it'll have something to stick to.
Okay, so once again, I'm bringing you guys in for a close inspection. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but I have in fact managed to melt shellac into the hole. So the next task will be actually fitting the jewel into the hole in the roller. Okay, so before I actually attempt this, here's the order of operations. Here's my roller. I'm going to go back and heat the roller again a little bit just to make sure this shellac is soft. Then what I'm going to do is on this glass coaster, just to keep the heat off the table, I'm going to fit the jewel, which you can't see but which is on the coaster, into the hole in the roller. Now there's really no truly correct way to do this. If it gets in the hole without getting shellac everywhere, then you've achieved success. One thing that Henry Freed recommends is wetting the end of your tweezer tips, and then just that surface tension will grab the jewel and allow you to dangle it and fit it into the hole. I will probably try that. I haven't had a huge amount of success with that in the past, but in any case, by hook or by crook, I'm going to get the jewel in the hole. Now, of course, you don't have to have the jewel perfectly lined up. You can adjust the jewel once it's in the hole. The key thing is just that we make contact with the shellac that's in the hole so that I'm no longer at risk of losing the jewel. Okay, I'm bringing you guys in for this very special moment. So I've actually got the jewel in the hole. Only hang up is that it is completely the wrong way around. So I've got this pair of broad, flat, number 2 tweezers pretty beat up. I saved them for exactly this purpose. So to adjust a jewel, what you can do is heat up steel tweezers and then come in and adjust the jewel, and just the contact from the hot tweezers will melt the shellac surrounding the jewel. So that's what I'm doing now. Just trying to turn this thing around and get it lined up with the back of the hole. And then I will melt in whatever shellac is necessary to get the thing secure. But it actually seems quite secure. It's not that easy. So I may actually have to heat the whole tool just a bit, soften up the shellac that's there, get this thing turned around. But once it's in, I mean, you're laughing because yeah, that can be challenging. So it took me probably 5 or 6 tries. I ended up putting some more shellac in the hole. It's an adventure, you know. There we go. So now I'm turning the jewel around. Nice, nice. Okay, so let's just come in for a close look at the fit of the jewel in the roller. So you can see that the jewel is square to the roller. The jewel is actually cut at a diagonal, so it appears not to be, but if I look at the sides, yes, it appears square to the roller. The diagonal bottom should not matter. It should not matter in practice as long as the sides are making contact with the fork. If I look at it from below, or what will be below, there we go, sorry. You can see looking straight on at the jewel. Appears to be securely in the hole, with the flat pointing out toward the fork. Likewise from above. Again, sorry for the quality of these pictures. There we go, there's the jewel in the hole. So I could clean up the top here a little bit, chip off any excess shellac. I think I will do that a bit, although you don't want to accidentally chip away at the shellac that's actually holding the jewel. So, so you can be conservative about that. But definitely any shellac that's elsewhere on the roller, I can see a little bit by the hole for the staff there, that can be chipped away. So I'm going to clean that up. And as I said, because this is a D-shaped, D-profile jewel in a round hole, I'm not positive that this is going to hold in the long run. You can see that, you know, you can surmise that a mismatch definitely had something to do with the falling out of the jewel when I first took the watch apart. But since I don't have access to a round jewel,
I'm gonna have to make do with this, I think, for the moment, unless one magically crops up. But for now, I think I'm gonna reassemble the balance and place it in the watch, and we'll see what kind of results we get. Okay, so let me show you guys the setup I've got for replacing the roller on the staff. So there are actually stumps in the staking tool to refit a single roller. You put the roller down and it has a cutout for the jewel. However, the holes in those stumps are not big enough to adequately hold the roller post when the balance has a double roller. So what I'm doing is I am placing the balance upside down and using as a stump a punch that just fits over the hairspring shoulder. So this is just what I did when I was fitting the balance staff. So I've got the balance upside down, hairspring shoulder in that punch, that inverted punch, and I've just lightly placed the roller on top. So the roller is not yet aligned as it should be. I know which side the roller is on because I marked the balance just with a little marker when I was taking the roller off in the first place. That mark will come off when the balance goes through the cleaning machine, but it tells me which side the roller should go on in order to preserve the poise of the balance. Not that this thing is particularly poised after how it's been treated, but in any case. So the punch that I'm going to be using is for fitting a roller. It's a circular, it's a flat-faced hollow punch with a cutout to accommodate a roller jewel. So what I'm going to be doing is putting this punch through, and I can just use the notch in the punch to line up the roller exactly where I want it, which is at 90 degrees, with the impulse jewel at 90 degrees to the balance arm. So that's what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to press down using finger pressure. You should be able to get the roller most of the way on with finger pressure alone. And then I'll just tap it home. So I'm going to do that without commentary, and I'll just let you guys watch me go about that. So I've got the impulse roller fitted here. Frankly, I think I could have done a bit of a better job with the 90-degree alignment with the balance arms. This is often frustrating. You think you have it lined up, and then once you hammer it home, it moves a little bit. It's no longer quite perfect, but that's okay. As long as it's pretty close, I think I'll live with it. I did actually try to take the roller off with a pivot punch. Couldn't remove it just with finger pressure. So I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to take a hammer to this new staff. So what I'm doing now is installing the safety roller. This is the roller that interacts with the guard pin and makes sure that the balance does not overbank while the jewel is out of the notch in the pallet fork. So again, this has got a little divot so that the guard pin can pass through, allowing the escapement to operate. So again, you've got to line up this little divot with the impulse jewel, and then we're going to press it home and finally tap it home. As you tap the roller home, you can listen to the sound of your hammer on the punch. When it makes contact with either the roller seat. When it makes contact with the roller seat, or with the roller post in the case of the safety roller, you can hear the tone change. It becomes noticeably higher, and then you know that you're home. Okay, here's my complete balance assembly. Hairsprings back on. Unfortunately, my camera cut out as I was refitting that, so no footage of that. But you can see the whole assembly. We've got the impulse roller with the jewel fitted to it, and we've got the safety roller. Just as I'm looking at this, I can see, oh, that jewel needs another little tweak, so I'm going to have to go back and do that again. No big deal. But yeah, we should now be able to fit the balance in the watch along with the pallet fork and do our escapement division checks, and as well as checking the escapement functioning. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.